As I look at this Friday favorite of the war film called Come and See, I'm going to admit that at first I didn't understand what I was watching. In fact, I didn't even like what I was watching. I had heard so much about this film that it was heralded as a masterpiece that when I first started to watch it, I completely was misguided and disappointed, and it felt completely off in tone and character, almost like it didn't know what it wanted to be. But by the end of the film, I realized I had completely misunderstood it and that everything that I was feeling was an absolute intentional direction guided by a brilliant director. Once it clicked for me, it became one of the most powerful, haunting war films I've ever seen. First impressions are important in anything, and my first impression of this film was not what I expected. This was a war film, but the opening and the first act are not heavy. It's not intense, it almost feels too light, like you're watching a kid who's curious, energetic, a little reckless, moving through the world with a sense of excitement and bewilderment. These are moments that feel almost playful, almost adventurous, almost like an innocence lost. And if you go into this expecting a traditional war film, it's going to be a mismatch. Like the tone is wrong. You're going to feel disappointed. And that's where I was wrong. Because that tone, that almost childish, naive perspective is exactly what the film is built on. You're not watching a war yet. You're watching an innocence. You're watching how someone sees the world before they understand what it actually is, before they've been ruined by something such as deep and tragic as the horrors of war. And then slowly, things start to change. Not all at once, but piece by piece, moment by moment. The film strips that innocence away, layer by layer, like every age experienced as a child who becomes a man. And it doesn't do this in a clean or structured way. It feels uncomfortable. It feels disorienting, almost dreamlike, but not in a good way. Remember, nightmares are dreams too. This is more like a bad dream that you can't wake up from. Come and See was released in 1985 and produced in the former Soviet Union and directed by a man named Elem Klimov. It's based on real accounts of Nazi atrocities in Belarus during World War II, where entire villages were wiped out and civilians were massacred. A lot of what you're seeing isn't exaggerated, it's pulled from history, and that's exactly how it feels. When it came out, it wasn't seen as just another war film. Critics recognized it as something completely different, something visceral, something no one had seen before. It's often listed amongst the greatest war films ever made, not because it's entertaining, but because of how unrelentingly violent and realistic it is. And audiences don't really enjoy a film like this, they endure it. There's a common thing that happens in war, and that's where photographs are taken of soldiers before they go off to war and then after they return, if they're lucky enough to make it home alive. And it looks like those young men have aged 10 years for every one. And that's what this film captures, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. That loss of innocence so quickly, the loss of identity, the idea of living within a shell of yourself after your soul has been removed, but your body and mind still remain. The loss of who you were before you experienced something tragic like that. By the time you get deeper into this film, the early tone is completely gone and forgotten, just like childhood. What replaces it is something very brutal. There are moments in this film that are genuinely hard to watch. You find yourself wanting to look away, and sometimes you do. But it stays with you. It lingers in a way most films don't, like a memory you wish you didn't have, like something you've experienced rather than watched. The point is, a lot of war films show war. Very few films show what war actually does to a person, how it strips someone of their humanity. There's always this idea of the fantasy of war, purpose, heroism, identity, and then there's the reality. This film doesn't just show the reality, it shows the destruction of that fantasy. So, if you watch Come and See and the beginning doesn't land for you, give it time. Because that childish feeling from the start is exactly what the film is building from. And by the end, you understand why it had to begin that way. Sometimes you don't realize the value of something until it's gone, and that something could be your own youthful childhood identity, and how war can take that from you, whether you like it or not.